Antarctica was officially discovered in 1820. That is the date in every history book, every academic record, every established account of when human eyes first reached that continent. A map drawn in 1513 shows it in detail. And that map is not a theory, not a forgery, and not a matter of debate. It is sitting in a museum in Istanbul right now, and it has never been fully explained. Piri Reis was an Ottoman admiral and cartographer, a real historical figure whose work is documented across multiple independent sources. In 1513, he completed a world map that was rediscovered in 1929 during a survey of Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. The map shows the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and the Americas with an accuracy that was remarkable for its time. But it was the southern portion of the map, a landmass at the bottom that nobody initially paid much attention to, that would eventually become one of the most debated cartographic artifacts in the history of science. The map had been sitting in the Topkapi Palace collection for centuries before anyone understood what they were looking at. When it was formally rediscovered in 1929, the initial academic response was measured interest. A 16th century Ottoman map was historically significant on its own terms. The level of detail in the coastlines of the Americas, drawn just 2 decades after Columbus, was itself noteworthy. Scholars examined it, cataloged it, and noted its qualities without significant controversy. The southern landmass at the bottom of the map was observed but not investigated deeply. It was assumed to be a rough speculative representation of an unknown southern continent, the kind of theoretical land that many Renaissance-era cartographers included, based on the ancient Greek idea that a large southern landmass must exist to balance the continents of the north. That assumption held for 30 years. In 1960, a U.S. Air Force cartographer named Charles Hapgood began a systematic comparison of the Piri Reis map against modern geographical data. Hapgood was not looking for mysteries. He was conducting a methodical cartographic analysis. What he found when he overlaid the southern landmass on the Piri Reis map against modern satellite imaging of Antarctica stopped the analysis in a way he had not anticipated. The coastline on the 1513 map did not correspond to the surface of Antarctica, as it appears today covered in an ice sheet up to 3 miles thick in places. It corresponded to the subglacial topography, the shape of the land beneath the ice, a coastline that was only mapped by modern science using sonar equipment and satellite technology in the second half of the 20th century. But what Hapgood found when he compared the map to modern satellite imaging was not a rough approximation. It was a match precise enough that coincidence stopped being a satisfying explanation. Antarctica has been covered by its current ice sheet for a minimum of 6,000 years. Some geological estimates place the continuous ice coverage significantly longer. The coastline visible on the Piri Reis map, the one that matches the subglacial topography, has not been accessible to direct observation by any known civilization within recorded history. To draw that coastline accurately, whoever produced the original source data was not guessing. They were not extrapolating from incomplete observations. The specific geographic features that appear on the map, bays, inlets, peninsulas, and the general shape of the subglacial coast, match the modern sonar data at a level of correspondence that requires an original observer who physically saw that coastline, a coastline that has been under ice for longer than any recorded human civilization has existed. The longitude accuracy compounds the impossibility. In 1513, there was no reliable method for calculating longitude at sea. This is not a minor technical gap. It was the central navigational problem of the age of exploration, and it remained unsolved for another 2.5 centuries. The method for accurately calculating longitude was not developed until John Harrison's marine chronometer in 1747 years after the Piri Reis map was drawn. Yet the geographical features on the map are placed at longitudinal coordinates that match their actual positions with an accuracy that should have been beyond the technological capability of any civilization known to have existed at the time of its creation. And the longitude accuracy alone should have been impossible for 1513, because the method for calculating longitude accurately was not invented until 1760, nearly 250 years after this map was drawn. Piri Reis did not claim to have surveyed these coastlines himself. In the notes he wrote directly onto the map notes that survive and have been translated, he states explicitly that he compiled the map from a collection of source documents, older maps. Some of them, he indicates, were of considerable age even in 1513. He references charts that he describes as coming from the era of Alexander the Great, and others whose origins he does not specify precisely. This is where the investigation moves from the map itself to the question behind the map. The Library of Alexandria, before its destruction, was the largest repository of accumulated knowledge in the ancient world. It held documents gathered from across the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and beyond, including, according to historical accounts, navigational charts and geographical records from civilizations and expeditions that were never individually documented. What was lost when the library was destroyed is, by definition, unknown. We know the scale of the collection from historical references. We do not know the specific contents of what did not survive. The possibility that ancient seafaring civilizations, Phoenician, pre-Columbian, or others whose records have not survived, reached far further than the historical consensus allows, is not new. Physical evidence of long-range ancient navigation has been found in locations that challenge the standard timeline of exploration. None of it, individually, requires a revision of everything known about ancient geography. But collectively, and in combination with artifacts like this map, the picture becomes harder to close neatly. Because if Piri Reis copied this from older maps, someone drew those older maps first. And whoever drew them was standing on a coastline that has been under ice for at least 6,000 years. The mainstream cartographic explanation is that the southern landmass on the Piri Reis map is not Antarctica at all. It is a distorted representation of South America's southern tip, stretched and repositioned by the limitations of Renaissance-era projection techniques. Maps of this period frequently distorted coastlines, compressed distances, and displaced features in ways that can produce superficial resemblances to other landmasses. Under this reading, the apparent match with Antarctica's subglacial coastline is a coincidence produced by selective comparison. This explanation has genuine support within academic cartography and represents the position of most mainstream historians who have examined the map, but it has not closed the debate. The specific features that Hapgood identified in his comparison, not just the general shape but particular bays and geographic formations, appear in positions relative to each other that the distorted South America explanation struggles to account for. A general resemblance produced by projection distortion is one thing. Specific subglacial features in correct relative positions is another. The two arguments are not equivalent, and the distinction between them is where the unresolved disagreement lives. Charles Hapgood proposed that the source data originated with an advanced pre-ice civilization, one that mapped Antarctica before the ice sheet formed, and whose cartographic records survived in fragments through the ancient world's libraries and trading networks. Mainstream archaeology does not accept this conclusion, primarily because no physical evidence of such a civilization has been found. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, but it is the standard the discipline requires before revising the historical record. But there is one aspect of this map that none of the theories, mainstream or otherwise, have fully explained. The map exists. This is not a claim, not a legend, not a story passed down through uncertain sources. It is a physical artifact, authenticated, dated, held in one of the most significant museum collections in the world. It has been examined by cartographers, historians, geographers, and scientists across nearly a century of modern scholarship. Its existence is not in dispute. The accuracy exists. The longitude precision, the subglacial coastline correspondence, the specific geographic features and documented positions, these have been measured, recorded, and published in academic literature. They are not the product of wishful interpretation. The question is not whether the accuracy is there. The question is what produced it. And that question does not have a complete answer. History has a consistent record of revising what it believed was settled. Civilizations considered mythological have been excavated. Navigation routes declared impossible have been proven through physical evidence. The boundaries of what ancient humans were capable of have been moved repeatedly by discovery. And each time they moved, it was because an artifact or a site existed that the existing framework could not absorb without changing. The Piri Reis map is still in Istanbul. It has been there for 500 years. The coastline it shows has been under ice for longer than civilization has kept records. Whatever knowledge produced that map came from somewhere, and that somewhere is a question that the full weight of modern scholarship has examined and has not yet answered. Some questions do not get resolved. They simply get more precisely defined over time, narrowed down to the point where the gap between what is known and what the evidence requires becomes impossible to look away from. Someone knew the shape of a continent that would not be officially discovered for 3 more centuries. That knowledge ended up on a map. That map still exists. If this changed the way you think about what ancient civilizations were capable of, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what do you think is the real explanation for the Piri Reis map?